Scott McNair, injury attorneys, we fight for the win.
All right, good morning, everybody. This is David Vignair along with my co-host, Brad Scott. This is the Overruled podcast brought to you by the Scott Vignair Law Firm. How are we doing today, Brad?
Doing really well. We got some exciting guests today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
Very exciting guest today. Also, just going to note before we get to them that the humidity is gone. I am now wearing a pullover, and we're excited about this beautiful day in New Orleans and the lack of humidity which has left our midst.
We've actually touched the 50s in the morning. It's been quite nice.
We have two great guests today, two good friends of mine, Phil and Renee Piediscalzo. Phil and Renee are the owners and founders of Orleans Shoe Company. They've become friends of mine over the years, and I'm really excited to talk to them and get a sense of how they started their business, how they operate their business, some of the challenges that they have being in the retail shoe business, and learn a little bit more about their journey, lessons they've learned, things they've done well, challenges they still face today. Two great people, an incredibly great company, just a local small business here, owned by a great family. And so once again, welcome to the Overruled podcast, Phil and Renee.
Thanks for having us.
All right. So I was hoping that one or both of y'all could just tell our listeners a little bit about your background and y'all experience with business before Orleans Shoe Company became a thing.
Well, there's not much of a before the shoe world. Phil's dad was employed by his uncle in a shoe store, young. And in 1971, the year Phil was born, his dad started his own shoe store. And in 1986, I started working there in high school, which is how we met, or how we got to know each other. We went to the same school. So shoes have been forever.
It was a shoe romance.
Yes.
I used to like going to work at one time. After school, Renee would tutor me after school sometimes. Learned a lot, you know.
I worked with his grandma, and she didn't know we were dating, so she would tell me to go help him with his schoolwork in the back office.
Was that a setup, or did he really need the help?
No, I probably did need the help, but
he needed the help.
I wasn't very good in school, I guess you'd say.
He's a doer. He's an action person, not like a book person.
Okay, so I'm sorry, we derailed there for a second, Renee. Keep us going. How do we get to Orleans Shoe?
We worked for his dad. He worked for his dad pretty much consistently from high school until we got started in our own business. And I more or less did the same, just in and out of that with school and everything and kids. But
yeah, my dad's the old school, he's work. And so when after school, I really had to work every day after school. And I worked, I think I was 11 or 12 when I started working in my dad's store. But when we got married, it was just, I was working 6 days a week over there, and that's the way my dad is brought up, just to, work. And it's just so much different now, and you don't see that kind of work ethic anymore,
I don't know if I call it an ethic. I think people are better at a life-work balance now.
Yeah. So it's kind of unbalanced, I guess you'd say.
So it's safe to say work from home and work-life balance in the early days were not the norm back when your dad was coming.
Yeah.
So that kind of mentality was taking its toll on Phil's health, and he had some pretty severe health problems, and we kind of attributed that back a lot to stress. And there came a day where he just said, I can't walk back in the store.
2002, I think.
Right?
2001.
Yeah.
Okay.
The year he turned 30. 30 is one of those years that, people make changes.
Yeah.
And we had started having a few customers who were coming in who had been really improving their foot health with arch supports. We had started hearing about that. And so he said, I really would rather do something that has a little more meaning, that's a little more helpful to people. And I want to look into this. And so we started looking into that. We joined a franchise in 2001. Well, it wasn't a franchise at the time. You guys would really appreciate the legal.
It was pretty confusing.
I don't even know what you call that tornado that we went through in the restructuring of the company we joined, and we stayed with them for about 18 years.
Yeah.
We were going in different directions.
4 or 5 years ago, right? I'd say.
Yeah, officially, completely during COVID at some point ended that relationship.
But, basically what we're doing is selling, we just were focusing on comfort, in custom fitted arch supports, which was a good thing because no one else was doing it at the time. So it really, we differentiate ourselves from everyone else. But I tell you, when we first started our own business, which was in 2001. I think we had maybe, when we first started, 50 pair of shoes. I mean, really, it was, you could have fit the shoes in your back of your trunk. You know, that's how many shoes we had in stock. It was pretty difficult because we didn't have any money. So
we had no money.
Tell them how we started it on the how we started got the cash.
Back in the early 2000s, credit was really easy to come by, and credit card cash advances were a new thing. We had worked my college first credit card. We had gotten the credit limit up to $35,000, which is what we offered to buy this existing business. And we wrote a credit card cash advance check to write the business to buy the business.
We put the business credit card.
Don't ever do that.
Wow. Well, for starters, it made me think of, my favorite book is Shoe Dog, and you'd be in good company about having shoes in the back of your trunk, because that's how Phil and I started Nike. So, and so I think what I'm hearing is you use that money to buy this business back in 2001 or 2002, which was focused on selling arch supports. Is that right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And that went on then for what, 18 years, Phil, Renee?
Yes.
Well, we got better. And the company was a mess and got restructured a few times, went through receivership. It was a mess, and then became a franchise. From the beginning, the franchise wasn't sure what they were trying to do, and we weren't sure what we were trying to do. And as we both developed, we sort of went in different directions. So I guess it was around, was it 15-ish? No, it was probably earlier than that. We said we want to focus on shoes, and we want to do it ourselves, and we want to do it local. So that's when Orleans Shoes became our focus. And we started the Mid-City store, which originally we were looking at a location on Orleans Avenue. So we were like, oh, that would work perfect for the name. Then we ended up on Carrollton, but it was fine. It seems like people can get it.
It's a better location.
And we're local, so.
It is a good location. It's the development that's happened on Carrollton now, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it ended up being, we thought we were opening a warehouse. We had also started doing business as an Amazon affiliate. And so we thought we needed a warehouse space to get more inventory. And so we thought we were opening this really random little side street, store that would be mostly about fulfilling online.
Yeah, because we used to be huge Amazon seller. I mean, like we still do sell on Amazon, but we were there 10 years ago when we just started, and we were doing huge numbers on Amazon. So we needed a place to store the shoes, and that's why we started that Mid-City store. But it turned out people were knocking on the door to come in. And so,
the Mid-City community is like super supportive of local. We're very lucky in New Orleans because a lot of people are very conscious of shopping local. And so the Mid-City community came out and supported, and we were like, well, wait, this is a shoe store. Like, it's a real retail storefront. So we got started from that angle, and then we started bringing more and more shoes into our other stores that were affiliated with the franchise. And so once we did that, they were actually going in the direction of streamlining to not have shoes and keep it really, really tight and focused. They wanted us to change our better business model, and neither one of us were really in agreement. So over the years, we phased that out, and now all of our locations are completely Orleans Shoe Store, fully independently owned, and we no longer have an affiliation with anyone else.
What are some of the lessons that y'all learned before moving Orleans Shoe Company in 13, 14, or 15, whatever it was, that made you decide, like, we want to be on our own, independently owned, and this is our business model? Like, what gave you that clarity of thought to go in that direction, if anything?
I think any kind of business, each state is different. Each city is different. So when somebody's trying to tell you how to run your business from a different state, I think it's hard for them to understand your business. There's no, each city is completely different, and you can't say this model is going to work in everywhere you go. So, that's why I feel like, I can't tell somebody how to run their business that's in Denver, what I'm saying? Because it's a different market. So I think each market's different. You need to, it needs to be treated differently. Otherwise, it's not going to be as successful.
Yeah, and it's probably true for any business, but I think specifically for retail, right, is like you have a better feel for what the customers in the different neighborhoods that y'all are located in New Orleans are looking for more than somebody who doesn't.
Yeah, and different advertising. There's so many different aspects of a business that there's no way, that somebody who's not from there can understand, and that's a good point. Like when I've tried to open a business in Alabama and Mobile or in even like Baton Rouge. I tried to open the stores there, and I don't know the market, I don't know the customers, and it didn't work out for us. So I think and being in the stores each day and being seeing what's going on and understanding what if you're not there, it's hard to run it. And it took some learning and some mistakes to learn that.
And a lot of that really comes back to like redefining your vision, what kind of company you wanted, who you want to serve. And it seemed like that was a little different maybe than what the franchise people were doing. But once you kind of center in on that vision, it seems like that's kind of probably what propelled your growth after that. And for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's an important lesson, get really crystal clear on what your vision is and what you want it to be. And then from there, everything becomes easy as far as what you need to do next.
And all the stores being close to each other really makes a difference too,
Yeah, we went through a time after Hurricane Katrina where we felt like we really needed to diversify our locations. We were scared, New Orleans got wiped off the map for a few minutes there. And our business interruption insurance gave us $1,000 for our flooded store and all of our damages. And
I wish we'd have known.
So we were kind of terrified to go all in New Orleans. What was that?
Yeah, we should have called them.
Should have known you back then.
Yeah, no kidding.
Back then.
So we went into Mobile and Baton Rouge, and we ended up really losing a lot because it's easy to throw away money on a 30-second spot, So it was like it was a lot of learning in that we tend to learn by our mistakes more than really learning through books. We should maybe work on that.
Lessons when you pay for.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I do think though that is something that resonates with me. We talk about that a lot. We've made a lot of mistakes too, and expensive ones. But the key, right, is that I just read an email this morning from one of the coaching organizations I'm in, is about pivoting and talk about that from the mistakes that y'all have made. What have you learned from those, and how has that helped you to succeed moving forward?
Well, the one thing that I've learned from was knowing when to stop. Like that was probably my biggest mistake, is learning. When we opened those new stores and we had one in Slidell, one in Baton Rouge. When do you stop throwing money at it? Because I would, it's something. It's your, when you had a store for 4 or 5 years, you don't want to close it. So, yeah, it's like it's like closing a store is really difficult. But if you just keep dumping money in, that was my biggest mistake, is to keep those stores open way too long. I mean, like it just, you always think, oh, it's going to turn around, but there's got to be a cutoff. and I waited way too. I mean, we were struggling for 2 or 3 years on some of those stores, and just took us down into a hole that it took a long time to get out of. And I think so now I don't throw money at stuff that it just knowing when to quit was one of my biggest.
It's funny you said that, because like when I was talking about that email I got this morning from the coaching organization, is Pilma, Brad, I don't know which organization I'm talking about. The title of the email is and I remind myself of this line all the time. I'm constantly reminding myself, the Kenny Rogers quote, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Yeah.
It seems simple and explanatory and cliche, but it really is difficult sometimes when you mix all of our egos and not wanting to walk away. And so I try to remind myself that in business. Also, a lot of times with us, like the cases that you're bringing to trial, like, no, I always tell lawyers, I'm like, this is one where we need to fold them. Like, I don't know if the jury's going to like this part of our case, or this is the one we need to hold them, but it does apply to business, right?
It's easy to get emotionally invested in something like that. Yeah. And it makes it much more difficult to let go of something. So yeah, getting back to KPIs and key indicators of economics and finance, and kind of make decisions based on numbers, is what usually saves us now that we've learned those mistakes.
Can y'all tell us a little bit about Orleans Shoe Company now? So you've been open for about 8 or 9, 10 years. How many locations? Where are they at? How many employees? What is your business model and some of the key offerings to the New Orleans community?
We transitioned our original location, which was at 3000 Severn over by Bromart. As we were expanding Orleans Shoes, we also expanded our space there. Now we also have OrleansShoes.com, which is talk about the evolution of business. That has been huge. We have a location in the French Quarter. We were on Bienville, but after Katrina, COVID,
Okay.
that disaster. we shut that store, and we recently were able to reopen in a great location on Charter in Toulouse. And then we are on at 3112 Magazine Street as well, over by the Rum House. And what's over there? Dat Dog, the Rum House.
Yeah.
I think our block. And Carrollton, the original Orleans shoe store, is still in Mid-City on Carrollton and the Greenway. And
So we have 4 locations plus the warehouse.
I noticed on your social media, you have a special breed of employees at some of the stores, some of the dogs. Tell us about that. How did they get started? It seems like an amazing thing to have the puppies in the store with you guys.
We had a great social media manager who is a dog rescue, bleeding heart. Like, she is just, if there is a sick Chihuahua within 30 miles, she knows about it. She finds it. So she really focused on that a lot when she was in the stores and working on our social media. So it just became a really dog friendly environment, and we're happy to have those guests as well. I see a lot of them wandering around in the little Crocs. So maybe we need to get a shoe line for dogs.
See, expansion.
I've seen that before. That's shoes. I mean, dog shoes. Huh?
And then we do a good business online now. When COVID happened, when the first 2 weeks of shutdown happened, basically, we had a website, but we hadn't focused a lot of energy on it. And Phil just went downstairs and sat on his computer for 2 weeks, figuring out how to make it a better site, how to get more traction, how to make it more user-friendly, keep all of our inventory live and interfacing, because it's a lot to do that between Amazon and an online store and 5 locations. So
before Ida, we really didn't have much website business. So I remember after the storm, I think 2 of my employees stayed around, and they were very tech savvy and helped out a lot. So we, us three of us, just basically put every shoe online, which takes some time to put a whole shoe online, because you have to, the sizes and the widths and the description, and we had to enter all that ourselves. And but we did it. It took us about 3 months, I'd say, but we actually did it. And
it's quite an undertaking.
Yeah, it was, but we didn't have anything else to do. The stores were closed.
We have disaster fatigue here, but it was COVID that you did that, not Ida.
Oh, that was okay. Yeah,
one after the other, the past few years.
Got to be ready for them. Huh?
What percentage would y'all say, if you know, of y'all business is now online as a result?
It's only about 20%, but it draws people to the store. You get information on there, so it not only selling online, you're getting customers that come into the stores from looking on the website, and then they come in and try the shoes on.
And we have same day local delivery. That's not free delivery. I think everything else is free delivery.
Yeah, we free shipping, free return.
It gets to you the next day, no matter how we ship it. But
if you're in New Orleans or around the area, we can get it to you in one day for free.
Have y'all had any special strategies that y'all have employed as far as what y'all are curating as far as the type of shoes that y'all are putting in the stores? I saw some interesting videos. It was I'm probably gonna mispronounce it. Solaver boots that are made in.
Oh yeah, that's interesting, right? Hey David, we actually picked up that line after the Saints game. Remember?
Oh, really?
Yeah, those opportunities spawn these things. But tell us a little bit about that line, and how y'all connected with them, and how that's different than a lot of the stuff you see in just these traditional retail stores out there.
Importing is new for us. We're learning to make those mistakes now. But
didn't realize how much taxes cost to import.
Oh wow.
Taxing, and then how you write your name, which numbers you use, because they ask for all of your identifiers, and then anyway, it gets complicated. But that line specifically, that is the original Doc Martens factory that Solaver is produced out of. Because we have eternity in the shoe business, we sold Docs in the 90s when they were, the grunge scene was bringing them on, and we sold them. And if you have those Docs, if you had those Docs, you probably still have those Docs. You could still wear them. They were such high quality. And as Doc Martens grew and they changed their manufacturing and production, we started getting customers who were bringing them back after a year. And I think that their production has improved since then. That was transition for them. I don't want to criticize them, but this factory they stopped using. But it was an old shoemaking town in England They used to be nothing but shoe factories. Like they were telling us how much
Pretty
of the
interesting,
economy was shoe factories. And it's still where Docs does their very limited UK production in that community. But Solaver is the original factory that they used. And they have multiple generations working in this factory. They like had people training their kids to do their jobs, and they still do the original, what is that called? Fire welting. I'm getting the name, but they did this great factory tour for us, showed us all the leathers. We got to choose the leathers we wanted, how they cut them, everything. Now it took us, I guess, 6 months to get the product.
Oh yeah,
so it's a different, learning curve in there.
But it's made in London. Shoes are made in London, really good quality. You can handmade. You can, if you go on our website, you can see the videos of them actually making the shoes. It's very impressive. I mean, I think 30 or 40 different people touch the shoe to do each little technique.
It's handmade from what I can see from your videos.
Yes.
I mean,
It's all hand cut, all hand. It's the tour was really neat. It was very, and the videos don't do it justice really. I mean, because there were so many different little stations that the shoe goes down the line, and it's an old way of making shoes. They don't do it that way anymore.
It's neat that you could go out there and connect with these people and then bring that type of product back to a local market.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to find unique shoes that you can't find anywhere else. And we just imported another brand called Soft Waves that are made in from Italy. And again, trying to find unique shoes that look different, that are but still we're always trying to gear to comfort shoes. Everything that we have in the store is comfort based, so it's not, hopefully it'll be good for your feet and make you feel better,
And I believe we're the only American company importing Solaver. At least,
correct. Yeah, we're the only ones so far. Yeah,
that's fascinating, and
hopefully it'll stay like that.
It's interesting you just brought that up, Phil, because one of the questions I was going to have. So, like, I have some Hokas from y'all, and I'm actually wearing. I love this line that y'all have. The shoes I'm wearing right now is the how do you say it? The Oha. That's like a Hawaiian type brand.
Olakai.
Yeah.
Is it Olakai?
How do you? Yeah. So how do y'all like some of that stuff now are like very popular? A ton of people wear Hokas now. They're so comfortable. But like, walk us through just briefly, like, what is the process for investigating and finding those new types of lines that y'all are trying to differentiate yourselves and make sure that you have custom and unique products to offer to the customers?
Well, we buy a lot of inventory, a lot of different brands, and that, so you might buy, when we go to market, you might buy 10 new brands, and eight of them are usually bad ones. So you're just picking up a lot of shoes, and then
process of elimination.
You're trying to hopefully one of them will hit.
We get a lot of requests from customers, and we definitely pay attention to that. We appreciate it when a customer comes to us and tells us, they're not finding what they're looking for, but this is what they were looking for. But one of our big lines, and what was one of our first lines, Phil and I were in Las Vegas at Shoe Market, and we had kind of gotten our work done. We were like, let's go to, well, we had the kids with us too, and they were not happy, but we're like, let's go to the Grand Canyon. So we went, I didn't have shoes. I was like, everything I had was for work. So we stopped in at a little shoe store there. That was great. And picked up, I was like, let me try these sandals. Well, I picked them up, loved them. They're a line called Naot or Naot or Nayat, depending on who waits on you in the store. But I believe their official pronunciation is Naot. And they have been a fantastic line for us. We've had them now for 15 years, I would say. Wow. And it was just because I needed a shoe and I tried them on in the next market, I guess 6 months later, we were like, where is this line? Let's go find them. And they have been an amazing partner for us.
Yeah. You don't see companies like that. I mean, like, they're just good people, good. They care about, you don't have relationships like that anymore. And the companies are so big now, they don't care about small retailers, but this company is different. There's a few of them that are like that, that we have, but it's really hard to find a good partnership. So where they like Linneo, they won't sell to even dealers around us just because they know they would hurt us, so they're sacrificing their own profits for us, and that you don't see that anymore,
And in addition, they saw that we had a good business with their products, so they invited us to a design meeting. And sitting through the design meeting was just great because they were listening to the retailers saying, like, what we needed is a wider footbed. And 6 months later, they come back to us with a wider footbed. And that kind of reactive, action is what we're looking for in our partners that we carry in our store. So if you buy that brand at this point, I think they cut on 10 different construction lasts. It might even be more, because they're trying to get, like you probably know, you have a running shoe that fits you. Maybe Hoka fits you, and maybe, New Balance doesn't. That's just because of the construction of those shoes. And so when we get a line that will build a whole new line around our retailers' requests for a void in the product line, like, that's just amazing. That's just the best partner we can have.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, I think it dovetails with what y'all were just talking about, which is true for any business, being listen to your customers, listen to your clients. They're ultimately the boss. And so if you incorporate their feedback in, your business will be stronger. It'll be a better customer service experience. And then it ultimately is tying into your values at Orleans Shoe about the people you want to work with who have those same values, right?
Definitely.
Tell me a little bit. You mentioned a bit there, Phil, on competing with like Dillard's or whatever. And one of the real interesting questions that I was thinking about before the show and wanted to know from y'all is, how difficult is it to deal with the 8,000-pound gorillas that y'all do deal with? Nike, the Amazon. How do you compete in the marketplace against those type of big gorilla competitors as a local retail business, family owned retail?
Well, with Amazon, we actually sell on Amazon, so that's help. It's going back 10 years ago, that really helped us a lot. So you might be buying something on Amazon. You might buy a pair of Naots on Amazon, but it's actually distributed from us. You don't even realize that. A lot of people don't realize that. You do have some third parties on there that's selling shoes. And when we first started on Amazon, we had like New Balance on there, we had Olakai on there, but a lot of the companies now, like Olakai and even Hoka, a lot of the companies do not want to be on Amazon. So like Birkenstock, we had a Birkenstock on Amazon for probably 7 or 8 years, and we're selling a lot of shoes on there because they only had about 30 vendors on Amazon that were approved from Birkenstock. But now you can see it changing. The reason why like Birkenstock got off of Amazon though just is because there were people coming on there with fake Birkenstocks and they couldn't stop it. So now, if you're buying some of these name brands on Amazon, it most likely is not really Birkenstocks because there's no one authorized to sell some of these brands on Amazon. So, as the time's been going on, we're getting less and less vendors that let us on there. So Amazon's definitely declined by probably 80%, but it did help us for a long time. Now, but now we're trying to build our own website up, which is better because now we don't have to pay 15% to Amazon. So right. We're doing online sales. It's just not through Amazon, and we're still doing Amazon, but it's only about, a little bit compared to what it was.
Getting into e-commerce has been a constantly moving target. So, originally everybody sold on Amazon. And if you got a good distributor or manufacturer was happy with that, well, then it changed. And then you had too many people selling, then they couldn't control pricing.
Yeah.
And, you can't, it just gets really, really complicated with online commerce. And so Amazon has gotten so big that now more of our manufacturers have chosen to not do business that way. They do direct sell. And so we actually, oddly are in competition with our suppliers and manufacturers in some cases, because competition has changed. When we were growing up, you might have 4 shoe stores in the community that all carried the same shoe. Well, now the manufacturer will limit that to 1 brick and mortar retail vendor, but now you're in competition with thousands, tens of thousands of sellers online. So it's just, right. It's constant change. But I would say that that's the number one lesson, is to be prepared to change. I was a manufacturer's rep in a different industry, and my customers who got so bogged down in Amazon, and complaining about the manufacturers, most of them haven't stayed in business. And I brought that home to our business and said, you know what, you're not beating them, so let's join them. Let's figure out what we can do. And it did help for a while, because it allowed us to negotiate for buying higher quantities and things. But they do take so much of your markup that, like, I would say our Amazon sales, we are probably lucky at this point if they pay our Amazon director, manager salary. So, but we've picked it up elsewhere. We've picked it up with our own website and with an increase in brick and mortar transactions. So it's just a constant change.
Yeah, I think it's a key business lesson. And for us, there's been different things. For example, like before COVID hit, we'd have clients who actually come in the office. Now everybody wants to do everything electronically and quickly and digitally, and that really is Zoom is a really rare thing now, and that's okay. Like part of it, right? I enjoy it. It's kind of like the game. It's like the world is evolving and changing around you. As a business, you have to know how to pivot and quickly change course based upon what your clients want, what your customers want. I mean, from everything that I've heard from y'all talking about today, from changing into a different line back in 2001 or two, then Katrina, and then COVID, and then Ida. I mean, you've been constantly doing that, and I think that kind of speaks to your abilities as business operators, that y'all have been able to pivot at those big fulcrum points. But
we even have a website that's orleansshoes.eth, just because we're on the Ethereum exchange, because we feel like maybe we need to be. We don't know, but we have to look forward. So
be ready for it.
Can y'all tell our listeners, please, each of you, maybe one or two lessons each that y'all have learned along the way in your journey to getting Orleans Shoe Company to where it is today, that you would want another entrepreneur to have the benefit of, or maybe just one or two things that stick with you to this day each? Well,
I think the main thing is taking care of the customers, and trying to really help people. If you're just doing it to make money, it's not going to work out. You have to really want to help people and listen to your customers and try to really be passionate about it and real.
For me, I see it as I think that taking care of our employees as best that we can, and there's certainly always room for improvement, but that's what makes me feel good at the end of the day, is when I have employees who are able to improve their own lives through their hard work. And
we really have good employees too. I mean, we
really do.
Dozens of employees that have helped us so much. Just really impressive.
I love to get a system in place and just run that system for like 20 years. Nothing changes ever. I hate all the changes.
That would be
very good at okay. One time he did 2 new POS systems in less than a year. You know how much that is to put a point of sale system in place with your inventory? And he was like, oh, we tried it 3 months. It didn't work. Let's do it again. I'm like, no, one point of sale system for eternity. But it really benefits us.
You got to change.
It's benefited us tremendously that he's willing to change and always entertain something new.
Yeah, and y'all are both integral and key to operating the company from my external observation. Do you think that y'all really, for co-operators, are there some traits that each of you have that are strengths and weaknesses that y'all have found has been good, that y'all have worked well together and complemented each other's weaknesses?
Definitely. I think sometimes I jump into stuff, just like she's saying, too quickly, and she kind of slows me down. But it's sometimes it could be a good thing, sometimes it could be a bad thing. But it works out for us. We're exact opposites. So.
This business was really, his to operate. I had my feedback and my input for a long time, but I was raising kids and dealing with that, and that was the priority. And only one thing can be the top priority. So for me, for a lot of those early years, that's how it was. I am a lot more involved now. We are always playing catch up. So Phil is good at being patient about that and understanding that I'm learning as I go. But
she's doing mostly the books and taxes now, so it's been a good thing, because now we're really understanding the business more, as far as trying to streamline it.
Why we need your help, Brad.
One phone call away from you guys.
Well, and that's a good point too. And I think probably something maybe it sounds like y'all have been really diving into over the last couple of years, understanding the numbers and that aspect of the business. And I think for a lot of small businesses, especially me when I first started my law firm, I didn't really have the amount of employees and the type of talented people around who could prepare that stuff for me and present data to me so that I could make decisions based on data. Because some of it, right, even for y'all, is you're making a decision on what you provide and what you carry, but you're also looking at what is contributing to our revenue and profit, because you have to profit to grow the business and sustain it, right?
Yeah, you got to pay the bills. And one thing we've always done is always put the money back into the business, and we kind of didn't pay ourselves, which I know they say not to do, but but now we're getting and before I could run the business by just looking at, like I could just look at the store and see, what's selling, what's not selling. I could look visually. Now we're so big, and we're doing so much volume. I can't do that anymore. So I'm not as, we need to come up with different systems. And that's what Renee has been doing as far as like, seeing the numbers more and stuff. Because I've really never looked at numbers. I can always say, hey, I can feel if we're doing good or not, but now it's a little more complicated. We have really 5 stores now, and way more volume, and it's just way harder to reel that in.
Yeah, as you scale, your instincts become less attuned to what's going on. You need more in the way of data to make those decisions. It's a difficult thing. It's a growing process.
It is. And we have, New Orleans is one city, and we're not a huge city, but every store has a different personality. And part of that is who runs it. But part of it is, in the French Quarter, it's conventions in town. Like there's so many variables. So we really rely a lot on our managers and the feedback they give us too. And we finally recently put an operations manager in place because there's so many different directions things are coming from. And she's amazing. I think she works 24 hours a day, I'm pretty sure. And I mean, she'll send like reports at 3 a.m. I'm like, Nicole, go to sleep. But we're very, very fortunate to have the workforce we have on our team.
Yeah, and that's interesting too, because you have a different aspect to your business, which is difficult as y'all scale and get bigger, is understanding the customer base at each location is different, right? I mean, I'm thinking in my head about your customer base in the French Quarter versus Magazine versus Mid-City.
Right.
Probably completely different, not knowing y'all.
Yeah, within the same city.
And Metairie is its own animal. Metairie is entirely different than all of the other stores.
It's like all 3 of them combined, I guess.
Yeah, I know.
This has been a really fascinating discussion. I was hoping before we close the show that y'all could tell us maybe kind of 1 or 2 things that y'all think are unique about Orleans Shoe Company that have contributed to its success and kind of make it unique in such a tough industry that y'all are in, competing against bigger people dependent upon retail and foot traffic customers. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Well, first of all, our staff is trained well, which is, like Renee was saying, where our staff is we train them, and we have people that have been there for, 10, 15 years. And so, when we get a new employee, they're getting trained by somebody who has so much experience. And, again, it could take a year or 2 really for someone to, I know it sounds like a really simple thing, but fitting somebody in a shoe is way more complicated than anyone can think. Cause you have to, you've got to talk to the customer, ask them questions, get to know who they are, what kind of activities they do, and then, measure their feet. And then, sometimes a customer is coming in for a shoe that might not be good for them. And we have to try to say, hey, that's not what you really need. Right. So, I think what we do differently is we can help the customers pick out the correct shoe for them, and make them, not waste their money, and feel more comfortable, and we always try to everything is geared to comfort. We don't carry high heel shoes. We don't carry shoes that are bad for your feet. We try to get the ones that are,
carry
going to help.
High heels, no stilettos.
Yeah, no real high.
To carry a practical shoe for a wedding. We try, and
practical shoes. Yeah.
If Phil buys his stilettos elsewhere, I don't
that's right.
I got to go to the Quarter for that.
And I think really there is not a lot of opportunity to truly shop local anymore, like there used to be, especially in the shoe business. We carry a lot of athletic shoes, and there are, more athletic geared businesses, a couple of small businesses around. But as far as having our selection, there's no one else who touches that. Yeah, and our money, we live in New Orleans, we eat in independently owned restaurants. We stay, where we shop with our customers as much as we can. We support, in the past 2 weeks, I've donated to the Pro Bono Project. I've donated to a couple of local schools. I am working my behind off getting the toy distribution ready that we do at Xavier through the Times Picayune Doll and Toy Fund. We support that financially. I give every kid pencils so that they can go back to school in January with pencils, because that came to our attention that by mid-year, a lot of kids they've run out of school supplies in Orleans Parish. And, we can't ask kids to do their job if we don't give them the tools to do it. And I really try hard to make sure that we are supporting our community. We sponsor a pageant for special needs girls, children in Metairie every year, because one of our delivery people, he always had a boy who would follow him around for deliveries, and nobody said anything to us. We didn't know anything for years. It was like, well, this is odd. And then he came in one day and he said he had special needs, and he asked if he could go on his route with him. And so he let him, because he had a daughter who had special needs, and it made him relate to this child, and that his daughter wanted to be a beauty queen. And so they started this pageant, and now it's grown for 10 years. And we've been lucky enough to support that. We support Raphael Village, Uptown, the New Orleans Polo Club, because our daughter's boyfriend plays there. We support the community and really be a part of that.
And that's what's good about New Orleans. There's so much going on always. It's always something going on.
And I've been on the flip side. We support Bayou Boogaloo. I've been on the flip side of that, where I'm asking corporations to make donations, and nobody opens those purse strings very easily.
Right.
So, local businesses support the community in a way that our competitors really don't. Dillard's doesn't do that. Dick's Sporting Goods probably isn't going to do that.
And I think that ultimately, when you boil it down, just from my perspective, is first off, it's admirable everything that y'all do in the community and what you're doing, but you're really building relationships. And business is just about relationships. It's all it is, relationships internally with your team members that work for the business and are helping build the business, and it's relationships externally with your customers and the people in your community, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you all so much for coming on. This has been a fascinating discussion, getting to know y'all and become close friends with y'all. It was exciting for me to learn more about y'all business. It's a fantastic business. I love how involved y'all are in the community. I shop there, and I love all the products that y'all carry. And so everybody, if you are in New Orleans, around New Orleans, visiting New Orleans, and thinking about go and get some new comfort and or dress shoes, check out Orleans Shoe Company, any of the locations. We have Metairie, French Quarter, Mid-City, and Magazine Street. And the website is online. What is the website? Online. We got e-commerce, orleansshoe.company. What is it?
Shoes.
Orleansshoes.com. Is that right?
That's S's.
You'll find it either way. Just type it in.
But I would encourage people to go into the stores. I mean, y'all really opened my eyes as far as kind of what goes into picking a good quality pair of shoes.
Yeah, and then measuring your foot. It's always better to go in and try the shoes on.
Yeah,
absolutely. And if Brad and I were having that discussion this morning, it's like you can buy a lot of stuff online, but shoes is kind of like one of those things that you really want to buy a shoe online. It's kind of nice to feel how it fits to your foot. So orleansshoes.com, Phil and Renee Piediscalzo, thank y'all so much for being on Overruled.
Thank you, David.
Really fascinating.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Y'all take care.
Thanks to everybody for listening. Brad, has been another fascinating episode and good conversation with Phil and Renee about Orleans Shoe Company. Thanks to all our listeners for listening. This has been the Overruled podcast brought to you by the Scott Vicknair Law Firm. We'll see y'all next time.
Take care.
Scott Vicknair, injury attorneys, we fight for the win.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.